Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Our distinguished guests, our PMI Arabian Gulf chapter members, our valued volunteers here in Qatar chapter, I would like to welcome you all in our second technical presentation for the year 2013. Before I introduce our guest speaker, I would like to thank Chief Vicon Qatar for sponsoring the venue of this technical presentation here at Qatar University. And also, I would like to share with you a few numbers about the Qatar branch chapter from the Arabian Gulf chapter. In the past year, before January, we almost finished, conducted more than 4 technical presentations here in Qatar. We also executed more than 4 technical certification courses, training courses, and we conducted 2 site visits. This brought a total number of 156 PDUs to our members here in Qatar. And since January, this is considered to be our second technical presentation. However, we executed more than 5 training certifications, training programs here at Qatar University. One of them, it was in-house. And another thing, one of them, it was the Certified Associates in Project Management at, I believe, the College of Business, right? And also, we conducted 1 site visit to our housing project here at Qatar University. Today, we are talking about the link between building information modeling, as Vicon is leading one of the efforts here at the state of Qatar, and the link between building information modeling and how it could be linked to the project management standard. And our guest speaker tonight is Mr. Gunnar Godawa. He's a civil engineer, and he's a senior project manager at Hochtief Vicon Qatar with more than 10 years experience in implementing new business processes on international construction projects. He's also graduated from civil engineering in the year 2000. He holds also a postgraduate degree in industrial engineering and management, and he holds a professional certification as a project management associate, IPMA. He joined Vicon Qatar in the year 2007, and since then he was involved with many of the construction projects here in Qatar. And to share with you just a few data that most of the governmental projects for the civil and infrastructure here in Qatar, now by default, they are requiring BIM standard to be implemented within the contractual agreements. Also here at Qatar University, we decided that most of our new projects, almost all of our new projects, they are going through a BIM. Also, they are requesting a BIM consultant to be involved within the design and the design phase of the project. So BIM, it's becoming a reality. It's not a buzz. In fact, it's a reality for the last 10 years. However, it depends how you perceive it, how you implement it, which standard you are following it. And I hope in this presentation that Engineer Gunnar, he will provide the link between the project management standard and the building information modeling. Thank you. Please welcome Mr. Gunnar.
Thank you, Khalid, for the
Sorry,
introduction.
switch off your mobile, please.
Maybe I should switch off mine first. Yeah, thank you, Khalid, for the nice introduction. I'm happy. Maybe I'll just start the first slide already. Could be interesting for you, not only to hear talking about that. So, and it's magic. Yeah, as already said, I'm trying to give you a little deeper look into the way how BIM, building information modeling, and time management as it is provided or as it is used in project management, how they can interact together and give benefits for people working within project teams to assure the effective achievement of a timely project delivery. So this technical presentation should give you a little insight for sure. It is not going to be very detailed because it is quite wide, the field of what has to be done, but it should give you some ideas of what elements could be used or which parts of BIM can support time management as the knowledge area from PMI. What we will look into will be mainly, I'll give you a short introduction. As far as I know, you already had a brief overview on BIM in recent technical presentations, so it will not be in detail, but just going into what is BIM and 4D for those who might have not heard anything about it so far, because it might help if you have a little basic understanding. Then trying to put together the PMI knowledge area of time management and the process groups of planning and monitoring and controls. And then I'll give you a little hands-on with a case study from a project we are currently executing. For sure, data that are shown here are not the real project data, so we fiddled a little around in the databases of the project. So if somebody finds some inconsistencies, could happen. Yeah, and that is basically the way through this presentation. So let's try to get first into the subject of BIM and 4D modeling. So what is BIM? BIM is building information modeling, but what is it about? Basically, to make it very easy, you create a 3D model in your computer. So using, if you make it very easy, the standard AutoCAD functionalities, which is not very comfortable. You use Revit, for example, which is a very known software for these issues. Bentley has also very good 3D softwares. There's Tekla, which is very known in this area here, especially for structural engineering. And you have various other softwares. I don't want to make advertisements for software vendors here, but I think there are many in the market that provide Archicad, let's name this one as well, who's also known in this area, and also some local companies working for these issues. But basically, you create a 3D model, and now the important is you add information to the elements of the 3D model, and you use it for many purposes. Because if you don't use the information, what is it good for? For nothing. So the important thing is to make the 3D model more intelligent as it was before. And it is basically about build digitally first. It is a kind of possibility to increase the productivity on the long run, to change business processes in construction, to try to prevent problems on site that I think quite regularly still occur here. So that is one possible definition about BIM. I think it is, oh thank you. But I think it is understandable, or 3D model information using. So what kind of information could be linked to a 3D model? You could link time, that is what we are looking more today into. You can link costs via the quantities, you can link specifications to know which kind of materials are in the model, space utilization to use it for space programming, for example, the rooms know which kind of elements they have, and almost every other information you could imagine. As a very little idea, if we look at that little blue wall, this little blue wall has some information attached to it. So this information is, for example, the dimensions, which is clear, it's in a 3D model. If the model does not know how long a line is, it would be very bad, because also the 2D drawings would be a kind of a problem on site. But basically then, if you think about extended information, you have the start and end dates, which are basically for time management. You know maybe the material, which could help you for the resource loading of your schedule. You know the trade, which is structural works, which has something to do with your work breakdown structure, and maybe other additional information. So as a very easy representation of how a 4D model would look like, possibly, I have an example of a slab and 2 columns. So basically, having that slab being linked together with a schedule, if you would show it into some viewer software or whatever, you could look at it, you could slide, for example, the timeline, and you would see it starts building up until 50%, and then it goes on, and then the columns come up, and in the end, you are finished. I mean, it's the most easy possibility of horizontals and verticals I can give to you. But basically, that is about it. You are linking the schedule, activities, with the correlated building elements that you are calculating in your schedule. And if you look into the digital construction, you just take the same elements. The good thing about it, if you have a complete construction model in 3D, it is very difficult, or you can check, are all building elements considered in your schedule, which might be sometimes a little tricky, or are they double in your schedule? I think it is always about being quite clear and being transparent in the way that other people easily understand and build up trust in the work you are doing. So how does all of this come together? What do I need? That is just a really rough thing, but how does it come together? First of all, we have a 3D model. And this 3D model can help you as well, very good, to derive quantities. And for some elements, for sure, and that is if you look into volumes, a 3D model is the most accurate possibility you have, because it's computerized. A volume is never wrong, as long as the model is drafted right, but let's assume that. But the volume is never wrong, because it is a very easy algorithm in a CAD software. With the other things, it always depends how you look at it. So if you have a wall and you have plaster on one wall, you have to consider both sides. So there could be some things that people make wrong when they're building up the quantities from a 3D model. But the volume is the volume of that element that you see. And you can calculate it, and you will ever get the same amount with your calculator. And on the other hand, we have the scale construction program. Construction program and 3D model, so all single elements need to be linked together. This could be done in a software directly, or it could be done also in a database. So if you have a very good breakdown in the model, you know this is a column in level 22, and you have your activities construct level 22 columns, and you just put these together. And you could also do it in a numerical way, just looking at it and linking it. Or you do it graphical with some software systems possible. We prefer to do it on a numerical way, because then you have the information in a database, and you can use it in different ways. Basically, it is a little like Primavera, but you have a little better access to the information as you have it with Primavera. And then after that, you try to give it on-site, and you need to have an easy user interface for the people to use this information. So if you make it very complicated and they have to make 10 days training or 4 weeks training just to use this information, usually they won't use it, because they don't have fun in getting additional work. It should support the usual workflows that people are doing on site. Trying to put a little together design phases, which would be in the top. There can be always different namings to design phases, but I mean, that is the current design phases that I'm putting there, and thinking about how we are looking into now more construction related, because if we would say, I'm looking into time management for designer, for sure, my execution is in the very beginning already, should be. But if we look more into construction, then we start somewhere when we have the design finished, we start really with the execution, procurement of the contractor and all those things, and also monitoring and controlling. And the planning is something that is more on the early phases. So this somehow gives us also already a focus where we are looking at now a little more in detail. If we look at the PMI process groups, we have the planning process group together with the project time management, and I would try that we look into how you could define activities, how you can get support from BIM to define activities, and how it can help you to develop a good schedule. And on the other hand, if we look into the monitor controlling process group, how can it help you to control the schedule and to communicate what is about the progress, where are problems, make it easy for other people to understand what's up. So now let's go towards that little case study. It is a project in Egypt. It is a quite big development. It started in 2008, approximately 200,000 square meters GFA. It's a 5-star hotel with restaurants, 37 stories with 4 basement parking levels, like approximately 40,000 square meters of parking. Major quantities is 165,000 cubic meter of concrete and 40,000 tons of rebar, which is, I think, quite massive rebarring if you think that it is the average of all things. So, which BIM use cases were applied to that project? And where I'm depicting on will be, we have a 4D construction model, which is the linking of schedule and the model itself. We are using it for progress monitoring to get a better understanding of achieved quantities in time. The model was used for full quantification. And in a database, we have the integration of the quantities and the unit costs. So you have basically also a kind of cost control. And I think one of the low-hanging fruits, which might be known to some of you already, the so-called 3D design coordination or clash detection is the detection of geometrical clashes to reduce on-site errors. Already in design is a kind of low-hanging fruit, which we are not going to look at in this presentation. So how is that project basically set up? The project developer is the driver of BIM. They said, we want to use BIM on this project. They employed a BIM consultant to provide specifications for the contractor and to control the BIM process. So that there's an independent authority who is ensuring that BIM is applied correctly. So it's also about quality of data delivery and about coordination. The project manager, construction manager on that project uses the building information model for his project controls procedures, for understanding the quantities and for other items as well. And the contractor in this part is obliged, since he is part of the shop drawing creation, is obliged to create those data. It is his obligation to provide progress monitoring and all these things. So it was really integrated into that entity in the construction project that is the usual party who has to do it. You can do it with other people, but I think people should also take responsibility of their works. And designer and consultants use as well BIM results for their own purposes. So if we look into the into the planning process group and think about defined activities. What do we need to define activities? Somehow we need our knowledge, for sure. I mean, first of all, that is something where a BIM cannot help you. Yeah? Also the work breakdown structure, maybe it is quite common sense if you set up a building information model that you have some structure directly, but that is planning engineers' knowledge. It doesn't get changed by BIM. But the quantity takeoff that is derived from the 3D model can give you the resources you are required to use to calculate your duration, activity durations. So these can be easily taken from such a model and help the scheduler to create his model. So I'm just going to switch quickly. Oh, so many files open. Okay, here we are basically in that user interface that this is a little small, unfortunately, due to the resolution, but I can give you an input with that. So we have, if we think about scheduling, let's say we want to know quantities for for different levels. So here we have let's go to structural works. It's maybe the most clear thing at the moment. And let's say we want to have columns. So here we see, for example, for every floor, that there is now, I mean, I have to scroll down here that we see more. How we get it? Yeah. Here we see the floor, and now I can scroll through it. So in the level 2, I have concrete 625, and in level 4, I have concrete 516, and so I have, for every level, I know the quantities of the concrete. I know, if we go here, the formwork, and the reinforcement in kilograms. So this can be very easily used to be sent. Oh, that was okay, yeah. You can easily send it to Excel, and if you are, very well experienced with P6, you can easily import those figures. Yeah, you just have to see how is it fitting to your work breakdown structure or to your activities. And now you have basically already accurate quantities that you can prove that it is derived from a real quantification without doing your own quantity takeoff. Because I think it is very usual that you do some initial quantities and then maybe check it again because you get a quantification from someone that you don't understand. And what do you do if you don't understand the quantification? Are you using it? At most for diligence. Maybe not at all. You say, oh, I have to do my own quantity takeoff. I need some support. So that is maybe something that we really want to prevent if we are looking into these items. Reusing available information as much as possible throughout the life cycle, because that is added value to the project. I'll just switch here a little picture and go back to the presentation. So that is how activities that for sure are defined by the planner can have benefit from BIM, because you get the quantities out of such a 3D model. If we now look into the schedule development, now you have your activities, you have to do your sequencing, you have to put in your lead times, your performance parameters, and you get your schedule. So if it is now linked with a 3D model, you can use the schedule to try to understand, are there some issues in the schedule, maybe overloads of resources or something like that in that system. You can use as well Primavera, but with this one, you have something also to communicate to other people, because you can give these systems to more people. They don't need to get the Primavera know-how, but still it is not of replacing a planner. It is about not making the planner to a document controller where people come there, oh, can you give me this? Can you give me that? Can you give me this and that and that and that? No, the planner should do his planning work. And if there's some information that some people would like to have, why not giving them the possibility to derive easy figures and use it directly? So if we look in this developing of a schedule, we are having a 4D model. It is going to analyze. So are there some errors in there, or are there conflicts? Elements not considered in the schedule, for example. So there are activities missing possibly. You see it very easily if you have that linking process done. I think it is a little more difficult if you are only purely in the software and the scheduling software. Then you can discuss those things in a meeting, and possibly you have a revision of the schedule. I'll just jump to 2 examples for such a verification from a project. So first of all, it is a report that is created, so it's documented. I think documentation is always good. First of all, it's explained what is done, so everybody can understand what has to be done. And then, for example, here, for this one, it was defined within the method statement of the project that the core walls are progressing 3 to 4 levels ahead of the slab. Usual construction methodology. The construction schedule had 1 activity for the entire core walls. I think for sure some people knew about it, but somehow they are not totally recognizing it or whatever. But with this one, it is very clear. That's why everybody asks himself, how can be my core wall be at level 38 when the rest is at level 7? It's very, very clear. So you just get those relations. You could check also otherwise, but you have a new communication tool to also to explain it to your stakeholders that might not be that professional in time management. You have other parties that have to understand, that might have to do decisions, who are not professional planning guys, who are not professional in time management. So here, for example, the stairs should follow quite quickly after the slabs because of health and safety, and so on. So we have also some curves for the development of quantities, and all that what was evaluated there is taken to a meeting to try to optimize the schedule. For example, here we have the issue that for 4 levels I have the same quantities for concrete walls, but my lag between the slab, that is the succeeding activity, is in one case 4 days. So I start with my walls, start 4 days, and I get my slab starting. In the other, or mainly it was 8 days. So maybe someone just thought about, let's make the schedule a little quicker by changing some lags. But with a combination of the quantities and the schedule, you very easily see that they are the same quantities aboard. So I would not understand why it could be 50% quicker all of a sudden. And in the end, you need a documentation of which checks were made and where they are based on, so that it's also contractually traceable why these checks were made. And maybe for another part, for example, here we have, here it's about that the construction sequence for blockworks should be bottom up, and here we see this is the earlier date, it's in the first floor, and the later date, it's in the ground floor, so it's the wrong sequence. It's very easy to be seen. Things you can also check in a schedule, but it's about communication as well and making these things as transparent as possible. So if we're thinking about how to develop or how a schedule could be supported, how schedule development could be supported, and thinking about construction program verification, you ensure the quality of the information to see that all elements in the model have a relation to the schedule because it has to be constructed. With a visualization, you just get additional possibilities for people to understand, which is for many people easier, especially in communication to other stakeholders, not within the core team of planning for sure. With automation, when you have these informations in databases, you can automate those checking procedures. And As a result, you have easy possibilities to report on these things also in a visual way, which helps people in understanding. So here on the right-hand side are very easy pictures of what could be checked. For example, here there's an element missing. It was not assigned to the schedule, it's not showing up, so you forgot some quantities. Or here, that wall is too early for the slab. Doesn't work. I don't have the slab finished, so it doesn't work. Or here would be not the most favorable resource distribution. I would say that here I have 10% of over there and that in the middle of the project. Then maybe thinking about visual representation in schedule development, maybe as you see here, how that little building builds up. It's again a coordination tool, and due to the fact that you have structured data, you could also link directly planning software with a database. So you could interactively change the data. There are some tools in the market who do that directly. And again, I like to stress that one, that the model-based quantities are a big key for this issue. Now let's go into the monitoring and controlling process group. So how can we have benefits from building information modeling towards this task? There are various options how you get information into that model. So if you make the progress recording, you could do it on a very detailed level, or you define some groups of elements that not necessarily need to relate directly to the definition of the activities. So for example, if my activity is one floor for the slab, you could divide the slab in the 3D model into 3 reporting areas. You just report for every slab, you report your progress, and then you can calculate with the quantities the overall progress without changing your schedule. For sure, the model has to be at minimum as detailed as the schedule. If it is less detailed, you are in some problems. Then you have to think about. So you record, as usual, the progress on site. You put it into the database for your planned information, and you reuse the data for visual presentation and also in the database to derive information required. So let's go back again to this little thing. So here, for example, we have, based on the information, I'll just switch here to that one as well. Based on the information from the progress, we have, it's really small. Based on the information for the progress, we have here a presentation of the project as per the status. So the critical information, the critical path is included in the database, and based on the fact if activity is already started and if it is delayed and if it is critical, you get a different color scheme applied to the model. So you have a direct view on the model. Where do I have critical? Where do I have things where I have to action on, or where do I have items that require any action at all? For example, here we see the red is a delayed and not started activity on the critical path. The yellow is a delayed activity on the critical path but which is ongoing, and the green is something that needs no consideration. So it's very easy if you have that, show that up into a meeting, that people directly see, okay, that's what we need to talk about. And we are not looking at bar charts where it might get a little tricky for all involved people to understand it quickly. It's always about also communication. So another way of getting this information provided is to show the progress of the thing. So it's now, the one thing was now the status, so verifying planned versus actual, baseline versus current completion. And here you have basically a view of which % completion do you have for which elements. So this could be very easy used if you have that picture and you know, okay, it is 1 week old, and if you are frequently on site, it is not such a big issue for you to say, that's correct. Yeah? Let's not look into the last percent, but I think someone who is frequently looking for these things, and for sure I'm now very construction related, sorry, but that is something which is very easy. But I think also if you would look into industrial construction, yeah, at Qatar Gas or Qatar Petroleum, it is the same. You have some elements, at least for the erection of elements, not for the commissioning. That's a little different. But you have a very good idea about what is related to the 3D model. Does it match with the reality? So we are talking about visual representation of those things. And if you have a database, this is not an S-curve derived from P6, that's directly from the database. And every reporting date gets its accurate status. So at this reporting date, you monitor and you integrate the actual quantities into the database, and you have every reporting date provided to you. So that was too quick, sorry. So now let's get away from this nice 3D representation and try to get a little more views for this. Okay, so it's a little bigger now. So now here we have an S-curve for the structural works, and we just want to have cubic meter and the work section 310, which is as per a master format concrete thing. And now I can also drill down in this. I just can click in here and say, okay, I want to know what was between 12th of June 2012 to 12th of September. And you see here the actual, the cumulative curves for the overall cubic meters and the bi-weekly progress. And this bi-weekly is really that progress that was reported on a bi-weekly basis. And now if you want to use these informations for further processing, and again, I should have said yes, then you get here for the reporting date, the accurate numbers. You don't only have to look at the graph. So that is just an easy functionality also for the people who are used to work with Excel to get this information out of such a reporting system. So if you would, for example, make an as-is analysis and you have another schedule and it has the same structure basically, you could load it in and you have a comparison directly in these possibilities to see what is the impact. And also, again, communication. You don't have to have your P6 computer at the presentation board. You might access this information via the internet. So what if we are talking about controlling such a schedule with a 4D model? What is important that you can do it? First of all, you have to have a structure that integrates, ensures data integrity. So the work breakdown structure and the activities have to be somehow aligned to the BOQ. And this has to be aligned to the 3D model. So it is getting an integrated approach of thinking how things belong together. It is not very easy, I think, if you get a quantification with a normal bill of quantities and you have it concrete per the whole building. Yeah, then it is quite difficult to derive the right things for single levels. And for sure, enable the team to access the information without expert software. And it is not about replacing people who are doing that job. It's more about giving them the freedom to do their job and not being the reporting machine for other people. Why not giving other people the information that they need anyhow? Why not letting them access them? For sure, regular progress updates is the usual thing, but it should also be considered in the database. Provided information should be used in regular tasks. So it is quite difficult if you create a parallel world. Sometimes people are a little lazy and they just don't use it. I mean, I have it, it's nice, I look at it, but I don't use it because I don't have to. And with a visualization of that process, it is very helpful towards client communication. So coming to an end, I hope it was not boring until now. What are the advantages that BIM could give to time management and project management? First of all, BIM forces people to integrate design, planning, and scope definition, because if these things do not match together, you cannot do it. And therefore, some decisions are moved to an earlier stage of design, and I think many people want to have the decisions as early as possible. And for that, you have a holistic overview and a consistent breakdown in the project. Due to the fact that it is traceable, and you can look at a single element in the model and look at the quantities and take your calculator and blah, 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 and you have the same quantification. It is traceable and you build up trust. People reuse that information. Somehow, at some point, people are also lazy, but they need the trust and you have to build up the trust. It can support in schedule development due to the good visibility and the good review possibilities, and absolutely it increases communication and saves a lot of time in meetings with a 3D visualization. And in the far end, you are talking about a complete project documentation. If you update, for example, the as-built information into that model, that can be reused by the facility managers easily and without having to revisit all information again. So, thank you for your patience. Are there any questions? I'm happy to answer. Yes? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nasa.
Thank you for the lecture. Just I want to ask, I'm wondering about if we are going to have variation for any reason, how we are going to implement it on the life cycle like this, or if we are not going to have this procedure that I'm seeing now should have a strong design and scheduling at the beginning of the project before start the execution. So how we are going to handle this?
Basically, if you want to have, if you think about project management, it is also very structured. So the world we are living here is very flexible, especially if you talk about scope, and that's totally right. It is as bad for BIM, as it is bad for the normal construction site without BIM if the client changes halfway through the project his mind and wants to change something. So, but what happens if you have not a 3D model and these things involved? He changes something, you have to employ again a quantity surveyor. You have to change again your schedule. You have to change, basically you change the same things. If we just take the 3D model as a possibility for quantity surveying, then you do a different type of quantity survey and you link it again. So it is basically, it's not much different than you are currently in the process. And it's not necessarily that you have to say that a 3D model is 100 times the effort for something else. For sure, it depends how professional people are they doing it for the first time, how's all those integrations. But basically, this scenario you just depicted is for every project, with or without a 3D model, a big problem. I don't know if you agree, but that is my vision, and that is also my experience from some projects here. Whether you have it or not, if you are 50% through the project and you have to change the basement, it's not nice. Is the question answered? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for the interesting presentation. Just here, stuck in my mind that to which extent we can use this technique for the integration between the construction and the other trades, same like electromechanical systems and finishing. It's good to make good presentation and visualization for the progress for the construction. But can we do the same? It's efficient for other systems, same like low current system, member, whatever.
And basically, I mean, I had here just only structural to also leave my computer a little evening and not to give him the full shock. Basically, you can do it with all systems. You just have to have the 3D model, and since 3D coordination requires not only structure, but for sure also all mechanical, electrical, and plumbing trades, as well as architecture, what I just showed to you can be applied in the same way to all other trades in construction. For sure, it just requires a different type of model and a different type of information.
I would like to ask, we know that 3D stands for three-dimension, or it's isometric view. So the word 4D was repeated several times without definition. What is the fourth dimension, or what is it is a data or database, and how we link it to?
I try to repeat it. First of all, what is the fourth dimension, and second, how it is linked?
Yeah, what is the fourth dimension? We know 3D is the three-dimension or the isometric view. So 4D stands for what, and what is the fourth dimension added to 3D?
Yeah, basically I would keep it in this point with Albert Einstein, who introduced, I mean, and that is, I think, the only scientific proved additional dimension to 3D that we have in this world, and that is time. 4D, I mean, that was the fourth dimension also already introduced by Mr. Einstein. In BIM, people relate also to 5D, 6D, 7D, I don't know, XD, ND, whatever D, and it is only confusing because it's a little difficult. But first of all, the fourth dimension is time, and that means that you really link the elements with their occurrence in the project, start and end. And that linking is, if you think very easily, it is done that you pick an element, you have a software who supports you, you load in your schedule, you pick one element and you tell that element you are belonging to this activity. That is one possibility to do it by hand. Or you can do it in various ways, but as I said, I think it is not a 4D modeling training here, it would take a little longer. Okay?
I can also comment on this. The original of the BIM, more than 12 years ago by Professor Martin Fisher at Stanford University. In fact, when they first started the research, it was targeting what we call ND modeling. It's not fourth dimension or fifth dimension. We are talking about the 3D model, accessibility, one dimension, cost is one dimension, time is one dimension, risk is another dimension, acoustics, fluid mechanics, computational, the aerodynamic of the within the structure. All of these are considered to be the nth dimension. So it's not only a 3 dimension.
It was a very nice presentation. And nowadays, as a fast track project, we bid, or even general contractor gets the packages, different package. Maybe by the time of you start the structure, the other package may be not at finalized or finished. So in these cases, can we develop the same bid model for different packages, like HVAC system separate or something, and can you merge it together at a certain point? or you have to wait till all packages are all complete design to freeze and develop the BIM model complete?
Can you issue your design, or can the design be issued in packages? The design itself? Yes. Yeah, sure, but the question is, just go back, just to explain. If the architect or the designer can issue packages, you can do also 3D models. And the optimum way, which Khaled Naji already said, if we are looking into current projects, Qatar Rail, Q22, Qatar 2022 Supreme Committee, I have to think, who else? Ashghal. They are all asking for a design made in 3D. That means you create your 3D model, and after that you take your drawings out of the 3D model. So by default, you have a 3D model when you issue any construction package. So it works. And if you cannot issue structural works at some point in time, because technically you need the MEP design package as well, then it is a design problem and not a 3D problem. So basically it is the same. It's not really changing the world of construction. It's just trying to help to get a better understanding and a more streamlined process. And for example, if you create a 3D design, you have a very, very big advantage. There's one model, and you slice it like this, you have the layout, you slice it like that, you have the section, and you look from this side and you have the elevation. And all drawings are coordinated to each other. And I have seen no project so far in Qatar where the designer managed to provide coordinated layouts, sections, and elevations. I have not seen any so far. And that is one very big advantage, that at least this possibility or this problem in design quality gets solved by doing a 3D design. But it requires some investment and some experience for the people, and then I'm sure you don't use more time than you did before. And all big design parties start doing 3D design. And it takes some time. It's a big change for the construction industry.
One last question.
Only the modeler can view the modeler, or there is some viewer packages also, so that there can be multiple persons who can view the model and the schedules?
So you speak about who can view the model?
Yeah, view the model and also the information on the model.
So basically, there are possibilities for free software to view models. So everybody can view it. I hope I get your question right. For sure, there should be defined responsible parties who are changing the model. It is like with a drawing. You don't want to have anyone to play around with a construction drawing and change it. There's one person or one group that is allowed to change a construction drawing. They issue a PDF. And basically that would be the same with 3D. Somebody can change the 3D model and he issues a PDF in 3D to you. And you can look, it is the same, you cannot change it anymore, to be sure for the process. So it's not everybody who can go in there and change it. Oh, sorry.
And the second question is, if some activities are under delay, how does the schedule correct itself? Suppose some activities on the critical path are on delay.
Once again, sorry?
If some activities on the critical path are on delay, how does the model now make the revised S-curves, or
how the model detects that it is on the critical path? It is basically, you have an element linked to an activity, and this activity has all the required information. And then you have a database query, and you tell the element you get red if the database query gives you the result A, B, C. Basically, the database does for you what you usually do in revisiting your schedule by hand. It calculates what is the status of the activity, started, not started, what is the relation to the baseline, delayed or not delayed, what is the relation to the critical path, yes or no.
So it means that if the critical activities are delayed, then the end date is moved, or it recalculates and fast tracks the activities?
No, still we have professional schedulers and professional construction managers who are required to put their brain into an efficient construction.
Okay, thank you.
We are not, BIM is not going to erase any of the traditional construction roles. It is deemed to make life easier, but it's not changing. We still need the brain that we have now. And I think we just will have more fun in construction and maybe less working hours.
Hi, hello. It's a nice program. It's a nice program that is make it easier, make it very easier. That's the reports come in 3D. This is very good, very good. And as you said, for planning engineer, it's a nice thing that you could easier show what is the status and what is all of your problem or reports in 3D. It's a kind of good reports for many years. But my question is specifically in the develop schedule, you show us a report that's detecting errors in the schedule. My question exactly, did the program itself detecting the errors and do it, or it just make the view for the error that I make the report? I use my mind and check the errors, and then the program just do the vision for the error.
Those elements are mainly semi-automated. So you use the databases and use databases to give you a selection of issues, yeah, but still you need the human judgment behind it. Yeah. And this is basically something as a due diligence for a client, for example, where he says, can you please recheck that program? It's a due diligence.
So did the program make some highlight for me or something like this? There is errors in this element and this element in the 3D, and make it in another color or something like this when I want to develop the schedule, if I do enter my data and everything, okay? And I am in the stage of developing a schedule. So did the program make any mention for me or something like this, or make any highlights for some kinds of errors or something like this? Or I am the one who decides the errors and program just view it in 3D?
Basically, if you can describe it in a logical way, you can program the database to highlight it to you. Yeah. It's just a question of how you can define these issues you want to detect, yes, and then you can program them. Yeah. So some things are really human sense. So if you have a narrative, for example, if you compare it to a narrative that cannot be easily programmed, you also use the human distinction of saying this is a problem.
I know, but okay, so exactly.
It's not fully automated, if you mean that.
I know it's not fully, but there is availability as per your talk. I think there is kinds of availability that I put something like issues and thresholds in Primavera. Kinds of I do program if this I say if one element have some issue, so highlight it for me and give me something, or give me a report, or give me any kinds of highlight, or what exactly you meaning by you can program it. You said I can program.
For example, if we look in the status where it's red, green, and yellow,
yes,
it's automated.
Yes.
You say critical yes, no, delayed yes, no, and late yes, no. Okay. And if you can say that, the program goes through it and says, okay, you are red, you are yellow, you are green. And you can also describe other items. For example, show me a leg that is not normal or whatever. You just would have to program it. But that requires maybe that you know from the beginning you want to do this throughout the time. It's not usual to do it. It's not usual at the moment to do it this way. So it's very in the beginning to do it this way. Yeah. So, but you can program it for sure. It's only a question of effort. I can program it
as a user, not as a programmer. As a user for the program, I can do such a thing. I think
at the moment I would say you might need some professional support. You would not be able at the moment as a user. You can get some small things, I'm sure, but I didn't revisit those at that moment. So we did it with our team, with someone, a professional planner who's also doing BIM. So it is a specialized role who did these reports.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I can contribute something towards his question. Anyway, human, as he said, human involvement and brain involvement is necessary. But if you are doing in Primavera alone, you may end up with logical errors. You know, the linking the activities with logical errors. So you have to check very thoroughly to to fix this in the Primavera. If it is in the BIM, it will show you the slab is not finished. So, but the column is erected already. So it's easy to identify the logical relationship, I think. So here it could contribute to your questions.
Thank you.
Before we go for the networking session outside, while we're taking the refreshments, I would like to mention just a few figures about the chapter still. The Arabian Gulf chapter, according to the previous data received, I believe the beginning of March, still we are maintaining rank number 6 among 262 chapters worldwide. Still, thank you. Still, Qatar is leading the GCC in terms of the membership growth. Right now, we are hitting more than 500 members in Qatar compared to 2009. And also, it's leading the number or the percentage of the certified project management professionals, PMBs, 60%, which is considered to be the highest here. So all of this because of the members here in Qatar and because of the volunteers. And also I would like to thank from the site of engineering and engineer Tariq Al-Khater who joined us today. I would like to thank Dr. Rashid Al-Ammari, the Dean of the College of Engineering, and he used to be also my teacher. So. And also I would like to recognize the Business Operations Department. We have Engineer Khalid Habalabi, the Manager of the Capital Projects Office. Please, Khalid. We have Engineer Mubin. He is leading the project management projects here. He's a project management within the office also, Engineer Mubin. And he's also certified PMB. We have Engineer Yasser, who is leading the facilities here at Qatar University. Yasser. Sorry, Walid. And also we have Engineer Hamdi, who is leading the PMO at Qatar University. Here at the university, we created 3 PMOs, one in the ITS, one in the business operations, and we have enterprise one synchronizing the effort between the two. And I believe also still in our portfolio for the technical presentation this year before we are hitting the summer, 2 subjects that we are going to bring for you, the Agile Project Management Office, and also we are going to bring for you the Project Management Office setups. So I hope that either one of them, maybe it will be a case study from Qatar University. Thank you all, and I would like to ask you for the refreshments outside. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid. Besides this interesting presentations, we are expecting some presentation from Gunnar Godawa as a specialist in the virtual reality. Can we expect something from your good self, Doctor?
Oh. Now, the subject of BIM, the discussion today is very healthy, by the way. Okay, whenever you have discussion technical and it's going more technical, it means that the subject is more interesting. But this scenario came to me like 3 times. I have seen the resistance from the construction industry when we moved from the blueprints to CAD. And they have seen the resistance when we moved from CAD to 3D models. And the same resistance we are seeing from the construction industry. BIM, it's not another CAD. BIM, it's analysis. It depends on you. We decided at Qatar University to go for BIM because we believe it's one of the most important organizational assets for Qatar University, for facility management in the future. So it goes without saying, and this is from the owner perspective. If we try to link BIM to project management standard, in fact, the 4 processes, these are the minimum. You can link it to the WBS, you can link it to the communication knowledge area, you can link it to the contractual procurement knowledge area, you can link it to the risk knowledge area. So it's open to you how you are going to utilize BIM. It's not a piece of software that you are getting a 3-dimensional model, but without using and efficiently using that model. Also, we believe the integration of BIM with visualization. So here at Qatar University, within a month, we are receiving the first cube, Aeon Cube, to be set up here at Qatar University. And this will be, in fact, we start to get requests from QP and some of the oil and gas to utilize the virtual cube here at Qatar University. This is another great communication tool, which bring all the design teams and all the project teams together and viewing the model. So this is another for you, Tar. Okay. Yes. We recognize this, we don't want to put the industry into a state of cloudness or, to be gloomy. And that's the reason we are working very close with Vicon Qatar here to have Qatar University as a hub for that education. And this is in support we are receiving from the College of Engineering. And we hope our efforts will be materialized. There is also a BIM user day by the end of this month. It's organized here in Qatar University. This is the 3rd BIM user day. The first one attracted more than 150 attendee. The second one, more than 130 attendee. And we expect also for the 3rd one to attract the same number. This will include also introductory training workshops that we are thinking to bring to the community here in Qatar. So again, it's very active, but it's not, we need your support. We need, try to approach the chapter, try to approach us here at Qatar University. We always try to help whoever approach us here from the chapter. Thank you very much. On behalf of AGC, I would like to thank Gunnar, please.